Always thanking a tremendous partner in the city and in the administration, our Chief Financial Officer, Brendan Hanlon, and of course our Budget and Management Director, Stephanie Adams, and our Capital Planning and Programming Director, Laura Perry, and the entire team at the Department of Finance for who over the last several months have been in overdrive to get this budget and proposal set and ready to go. I also want to thank every member of my administration and their teams who've crafted proposals that make up this budget, proposals that put our people first, proposals that continue to deliver a more equitable city for everyone. My 2020 budget proposal reflects our solid financial footing, protects the progress we've made since the Great Recession, and prepares us for an economic slowdown. Just as we have done in the past, we are taking a proactive approach to an uncertain economic future. We are taking certain steps now to begin the belt tightening because we are indeed seeing our revenues moderate and soften. This type of stewardship has been the hallmark of my administration, and I wish the same could be said, of course, for what's happening in the White House. Frankly, this president and his administration is playing games with the economy, and we are the ones who are left to pick up the pieces, and we see that going forward in our 2020 budget. Nevertheless, this budget proposal reflects a proactive fiscal management approach intended to mitigate risk and preserve fiscal strengths of the city of Denver. The people's priorities are clear, and this budget proposal advances the people's priorities by opening access to equity and opportunity, tackling affordability and improving support for our residents experiencing homelessness, building a mobility system to reduce traffic congestion and roadway fatalities, combating climate change, and ensuring all our neighborhoods are safe and offer a high quality of life. In this budget proposal, we are dedicating $97 million toward affordable and attainable housing and resources for our residents and neighbors experiencing homelessness, including the creation of a new Department of Housing Stability to firmly establish housing stability as a core city service, just like police, fire, paving, and planning. For transportation, we are proposing to invest more than $118 million toward the build-out of Denver's multi-modal transportation system. On our climate change and environmental protection, we are suggesting $40 million, including funding to stand up a new Office of Climate Action, Sustainability, and Resiliency. This budget also keeps our city focused on directing growth to where it makes sense, empowering our neighborhoods to have greater say in what affects the character and design of their community, advancing our goal of each resident living within a 10-minute walk of a park, and ensuring Denver remains one of the safest cities in America. So I am pleased to submit this 2020 budget proposal for consideration by the Denver City Council, city employees, and residents of Denver. I believe working together we can maintain our values, particularly equity, advance our priorities, preserve our fiscal strength, and of course prepare for the future. With that, I want to bring up our Chief Financial Officer, Brendan Hanlon, to address the budget details.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Good morning. My name is Brendan Hanlon. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for the City and County of Denver. First, I want to thank Mayor Hancock and his entire team. The Mayor was absolutely right. This budget took an extraordinary amount of work across all of the agencies as well as the Department of Finance. I want to thank the Budget and Management Director, Stephanie Adams, and the entire budget team and all the work that they've done. I'll try to speak closer to the microphone. As well as Laura Perry and the Capital Planning and Programming team and the work that they invested. This team in the Department of Finance always wants to ensure that we have a transparent, thoughtful, priority-based budget. I'm incredibly proud to work aside the entire finance team and lead the city as the Chief Financial Officer. As the Mayor noted, growth in our local economy continues, but at a moderated pace. At the same time, we are faced with serving more people and more challenges in a growing city, which has made for a very difficult budget proposition this year. Nationally, the future economic outlook is uncertain. This has made the 2020 budget very challenging and required city leaders to pull together to continue our commitment to a balanced budget, strong reserves, while investing in city priorities. This budget makes a number of structural changes and taps into alternative funding sources to establish new departments and offices and to brace for the impacts caused by national economic volatility. We place significant value on maintaining enough cash reserves to allow us to continue to deliver core services during economic downturns. Not only do reserves can provide a much-needed cushion during challenging economic times, but credit rating agencies also look to them as a sign of our financial management practices. The Mayor's 2020 budget allows us to maintain healthy reserves at 15% and protect our strong credit rating as we head into a period of greater economic volatility. Denver maintains a AAA credit rating from the top 3 credit rating agencies. When reaffirming our ratings in 2018, the 3 agencies cited our strong financial management practices, the willingness to act quickly in the face of economic uncertainty, which is what we are doing today in the 2020 budget. About half of Denver's tax revenues come from sales and use tax. In late 2018 and continuing into 2019, my team and I have watched a moderation in our sales and use tax driven primarily by flattening or negative activity in construction-related, manufacturing-related, automobile sales, and medical marijuana sales as well. At the same time, we were experiencing very strong growth in retail sales and tourism-related taxes, which has helped offset the weaknesses in these and other areas. In light of these trends, we've revised our 2019 sales tax revenue projection down by 1.5% compared to our original 2019 forecast. Funding capacity in our general fund, which makes up the majority of our operating dollars, is expected to be weaker in the years past and is growing just by 2%. State revenue forecasts also point to continued conservative growth and signs of possible economic moderation. Home prices in Denver continue to increase, but at a slower rate. While looking at employment, the outlook is positive locally and nationally, with unemployment in the metro Denver area at 2.7%, while at 3.7% nationally. However, newly released August jobs report numbers show job creation nationally falling short of projections. So, our overall economic picture here at home and across the United States is mixed, and that's why the Mayor's 2020 budget is lean in its approach by identifying opportunities to streamline our work, remove underutilized resources and positions, and continue to provide excellent service to our residents for them to rely on, while investing in our key priorities across the city. It proposes smart investments to allow our agencies to directly meet the pressing challenges of affordability, particularly our housing market, homelessness, traffic congestion, climate change, and creating an economy that works for everyone. It also positions Denver to preserve our high financial ratings, maintain healthy reserves, and focus on responsible growth. Thank you, and I'd like to turn it back over to the Mayor and open it up for questions.
Thanks, Steve. Famous last words. Thank you all. Thank you, Brendan, for that great report. Let's go ahead and open it up for question and answers. We'll do our best to answer your questions.
Talked about belt tightening. Can you give us some examples of where we tightened our belt?
Yeah, I'll let Brendan address that for you, or Stephanie for that matter. But let me just say this: I see in the audience a lot of agency leads, members of our cabinet. Obviously, there's a lot more we would want to do, and we were continuing to look at key priority areas such as housing, climate change, homelessness, investing in our multi-modalism, and clearly all of us would like to continue forward with the very aggressive path that we've carved over the last 2 or 3 budget cycles in our investments. Well, you can see that in those areas, even though we're continuing to make them a priority, we're not able to do as much as we would like to do because of the belt tightening and because of the indications that we're seeing in terms of the fundamentals of the economy. Stephanie?
Thank you. So agencies did a really tremendous job. A lot of them looked at their base current budget. They looked at things like training and travel, some vacant positions that had been filled for quite some time, back of the house positions, we really asked folks to look at those things that would not impact direct services, and people really pulled together and really looked at their budgets to see what they were spending and where they could redirect those dollars to the priorities that the mayor just discussed.
So we start, Jerry, with those areas that we have greatest control, that are more discretionary, and that allow us to hold line and cut and dramatically in some instances to help with our tightening. And the goal and hope is that we don't have to go deeper than that as the economy continues to progress. Any other questions?
Mayor,
Yeah.
what will your approach be in the next year? There's always so many priorities in the city, so many things that different people want. Are you going to be more of a Mr. No these days, or how will you do this?
More of a what?
A Mr. No?
Oh, man, I thought you called me a name. I was about to... No, here's the reality. As I was just reflecting on this year's budget, sitting up here, between just the three of us, you have over 55 years of experience in the city of Denver. Stephanie for 18, Brendan for 20, and I'm in my 16th year in the city of Denver. And the reality is this, that we have been through the most dramatic economic recession in our lifetime. And the three of us were part of helping to navigate the city through that. What you see us doing, even in the very prosperous times, we exercise prudent leadership of the budget, and we try to direct the budget to those priorities that we felt we needed to exercise in order to manage a growing city, a city that, by the way, no other city has grown like we have over the last 8 years. And I think as a city as a whole, that's not to take anything from the agency leads and other folks, the entire finance department being involved, has done a tremendous, very prudent job of managing the resources of this city. Let me point out something that it's very important to remember. In 2011, we were at 10.7% in terms of our reserves. We were dangerously close to dipping below that 10%, which is an absolute no-no for a city to maintain its credit rating. Would have made all of our borrowing much more expensive than what we had in terms of debt, much more expensive to manage. We're back to 15%. This budget takes us straight to 15%. There is no additional area for us to play, and you do not want to dip below that standard for a city so we can maintain our credit rating and to keep our debt ratios at where we need them to be. So the reality is this: my job, Brenda's job, Stephanie's job is to hold the line, to maintain those reserves and make sure we remain prudent within our operating budget, and that's what we plan to do. Any others?
Mayor, you
Yes,
seem
Jim.
The way that this is being presented, you seem to be saying for certain that we're going to at least have a downturn, if not a full-on recession. Cite some more evidence of that. I mean, there are other people who would say, if we have a dip, it's only going to be a small bump.
Well, let me just start fundamentally at the national environment, and that's the difference from being a member of city council, where I had a more narrow parochial vision of in terms of my district and things that I cared about, versus transitioning to this broader context in terms of what the national and international economy climate is like. The reality is that when we all see things such as the tariffs and the trade wars, the president calling the Fed names and coming down on the Federal Reserve, which is absolutely unprecedented, you have to understand that that has an impact on the national environment and national climate, economic and climate. There is uncertainty in the marketplace, primarily driven by the trade wars and the tariffs. And I think Brendan said it very best in our briefing. Uncertainty is not a friend of the economy. Certainly, we see it with the volatility of the market. We see it with regards to employers deciding to hold the line in terms of productivity. And so that context is very concerning to me. And then the other thing is that while we see the economy still in a very positive pace, we see the fundamentals beginning to break down, such as people not buying appliances and automobiles as much as they had been, that kept the economy at pace. Zero in on what Brendan said. Tourism, there was one other that you mentioned, food and beverage, have held up or began to help us maintain some level of momentum, whereas for the last 3 to 5 years, we actually had the other elements such as the purchase of automobiles and appliances working in parallel, and so it kept our economy strong. We're starting to see those soften, which causes us a great deal of concern. And of course, the reason why we are proposing the budget in which we are and where we're holding the lines, sending the message to agency heads, and let's put together a prudent proposal that allows us to stay within the realm of our capacity.
You feel you have a city council that sees this the same way? You've got a lot of newly elected members that have agendas, things that they'd like to do, want to do,
Yeah.
that they're seeing the money situation the same way you are.
Well, you know what, I think, I know this is going to be, I see Councilman Hines right behind you. Thank you for being here, Councilman. I got to tell you, again, coming from city council, I kind of understand the perspective the council members have to look at the budget. And we have to measure that along with the mayor's context in which he or she sees the city and the economy and the national and international context. So we'll work with the new council members who have never been through a budgetary process to understand why we're making decisions that we have to make, and then work with council. But I can tell you that what I'm pleased about is that the priorities that we've outlined in this budget are exactly the priorities that council has articulated to us. Okay? Any others? Thank you all. Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you.